So I'm Amanda Fallon-Bennett. Here at Voices of Hope, I am our program director. And outside of that, I'm an assistant professor at UK in the College of Nursing.
My name is Alex Ellswick. I'm also one of the co-founders of Voices of Hope, and I'm an extension specialist for substance use prevention and recovery.
That was you.
I'm a person in long-term recovery from a heroin addiction, and a couple of years into my recovery, my mom and I met Dr. Fallon-Bennett, and we were doing some real grassroots work in the community, doing overdose response trainings and distributing naloxone, and doing talks to raise awareness and combat stigma and things like that. But we hadn't formalized, and then in 2015
or 16.
We kind of
one or early the other.
formalized, got our 501c3 nonprofit status, and started officially doing what we do. So for me, as a person in recovery, my story is not unique, but I had a lot of resources at my disposal when it came time for my recovery. I had every opportunity that could be available to anybody. I'm really privileged in that way, and so I think part of it is we just wanted to give other people that opportunity, wanted other people to have access to all the opportunities that I had.
I guess for me it was just a happy accident. I don't have a very good story. I guess really briefly, I've lived in San Francisco before this. I was doing a postdoc. I was working at Needle Exchange. So when I moved back to Lexington, I thought I would find something like that. And so I went to a meeting, a harm reduction meeting here in Lexington. It was before we had an exchange here, and I met Shelly, Alex's mom, and she told me that she wanted to she felt like someone should distribute naloxone in Lexington, and I said, why don't we do that? And we did, and we've never left each other.
They've been attached at the hip for the last 5 years.
True, actually. We're a recovery community organization, and so what that means is that our only goal, the main goal we have, is to help people who are in recovery stay in recovery. So it's technically to increase the quantity and quality of recovery services in Lexington is our mission. So we have a workplace employment readiness internship. So we are able to, with 10 hours a week, bring somebody on board who's having trouble getting back into the workforce. So the first person we brought on had a pretty big gap in her resume from being in treatment, and then also from just being a stay-at-home mom, and it's just a way to help somebody in recovery kind of come back into the workforce. So as part of her internship, she took the free classes at Jubilee Jobs, but we're able to pay her to do that, to get her resume and get some computer classes, and she's a peer support specialist now at the Chrysalis House, and so we're working with our second intern now, and we are launching a recovery coaching program next week. Our fresh clients are signing up today, so it's just a little bit more of an in-depth hour. Well, it's a lot like our telephone recovery support, but it's a more in-depth, goal-oriented meeting.
Recovery coaches work with people in recovery to help them overcome barriers that they may face in their recovery. Then we have what are called all recovery meetings, which are peer support meetings that are open to all paths of recovery, regardless of how somebody got there, to make sure we create a space that's safe for people in all walks of recovery.
We're starting a yoga class in January.
Starting a yoga class. I am excited about that. What else?
We got a grant recently from two different places, and the idea of it's an educational program. That's why we have the yoga class, but we're going to be able to pay people to come in to provide classes on their skill for people in recovery. So yoga is one example, but we have talked about having parenting classes, other exercise classes. That's the only one that we have off the ground, but
we have a speakers bureau. So we have people in recovery who go out into the community and speak in panel discussions before city council, legislators, wherever, just to reduce stigma, to put a face on recovery, and kind of help change the conversation surrounding addiction and recovery. Well, one of our core values is that we respect all paths to recovery, and so regardless of how somebody identifies, regardless of how they entered recovery, whether it's through a faith-based program, through through medication-assisted treatment, through an abstinence-based program, spiritual program, whatever it is, they're welcome here because we just want to see people get well. We're not really concerned with how they get well. We just want to see them get well. And I think the more that people get engaged in the social activities that happen around voices, the better their recovery may be. So come into a yoga class, we're maybe having some workout classes coming up, like some Zumba or something, all things that research says improve people's recovery outcomes.